Welcome to Not So Silent, episode 27. It is November 23rd. We had a little bit silent weekend. It was a little bit quiet. I mean, we heard about Dominion software otherwise. We'll say what you can't. We think we're right, but I wouldn't bet on it. First off, I want to thank everyone for listening. We are really starting to blow up. In the last week, we've had 10 times more views on videos than the entire month prior. That is exciting for us. Hopefully exciting for you guys. We will not be silent. We're going to continue to say what you can't. I promise we will do that. Cancel culture will not win, but do me a big favor. There are a lot of ways to engage with us. Go to notsosilent.com. Fill out the newsletter request where you put in your email address, and we will send you guys fun, new, important thoughts from us. Subscribe on youtube.com so you get our latest videos. Join us on Parler or Twitter at Not So Silent Pod, at Not So Silent Pod, and Instagram and Facebook, facebook.com/Not So Silent. Not So Silent Pod. And just do me the favor, if you like what we're talking about and you see it on Parler or Twitter or wherever, retweet it, echo it, share it with those who need to hear this. So please do me that favor. We started the show because we were sick and tired of the just flat out uncommon sense that's out there and a fear that so many people aren't speaking up their minds. So we will speak up our minds. All right. So on today's show, we are going to primarily focus on something we know a lot about, which is colleges. So Sean, Chris, and I have worked closely with businesses involved in the university level and students. That's actually how we met. So we have a pretty unique knowledge of some of this stuff. And right now, the national news that people are hearing a lot about is college student loan debt. Biden's talking about getting rid of it and so on. And we're also hearing about some of the fiscal problems that different schools are faced with. So we are going to talk quite a bit about that. And we're not going to let the government pay for medicine, college, your bills while they keep us shut down. Next will be your mortgages, etc. So we will avoid at all costs, or at least talk about trying to avoid at all costs the socialism that's on its way. So let's get started, gentlemen. How you guys doing? Chris in St. Louis, Sean in Kansas City. I am Taylor in Nashville. How was your guys' weekend?
That was great.
All right. So Joe Biden has come out and he has openly said one of the first things he wants to do is eradicate all the student loan debt. And that is a terrifying concept. Essentially, they want to up to the student loan forgiveness programs, up to $50,000 would be forgiven, $10,000 of your debt automatically canceled, etc. What are your guys' feelings on this craziness?
Go ahead, Sean.
Well, I've got a lot of background information and data on the problem, and it's definitely a big problem. My personal thoughts are, man, it'd be nice to not have to pay all that back because I do still have some student loans that I owe some money on, and some of it's federal. But overall, the libertarian and economic mind that I have says it's a bad idea. I would rather pay back what I need to pay back than live in a country where everyone gets free college.
Okay. So hang on. Sean, let's put some color on this just so that because a lot of the people out there they're thinking about it from their own small perspective of I owe $24,000, my payment's $642 a month or whatever it is. Sean, what is the latest statistics that you've been able to gather? What is the total amount of student loan debt that's out there?
Approximately $1.5 trillion.
All right. That's fantastic. $1.5 trillion. And I think the important thing for people to understand is why is this such an important topic? So there's $1.5 trillion out there of student loan debt. And the bigger problem is the default rates on those student loans are incredibly high relative to typical debt. Mortgages will default at what rate, Sean, approximately?
1 to 2%.
What about a car loan?
5 to 6%.
And what about student loans?
Credit cards, 9.
And what about student loans?
10 to 11 prior to the pandemic, and there's a lot of signs pointing to it going way up.
Okay, and part of the problem is the increase in student loan debt versus the increase in income. Student loan debt has gone up by how much?
Well, I don't know about student loan debt. The cost of education since 1971 has gone up 145% adjusted for inflation. Well, my median household income has gone up 28%.
Okay, so you've seen the cost of education going through the roof, but not equaling a massive increase in how much people are making. That's all being adjusted for inflation. So what's happening is you're seeing a lot of people leave school, massive amounts of debt, but not making massive amounts of money to pay off this debt, and they're defaulting at really, really high rates. And what percentage of this $1.5 trillion approximately is backed by the government?
92% of this is backed by the government. So of the existing student loan debt that is out there, about $1.5 trillion is owned by the Department of Education. That's money that we, people that have student loans, owe the government, and 8% is owned by private banks.
Okay. So I think what's really important is everyone understands these people go to school, and in many cases, you go off to college, you get a degree in things like art history. You pay the same amount or almost the same amount as someone who gets a degree in engineering. The student who leaves in engineering has a very easy time finding a job, or much easier time, and makes on average $60,000 leaving school. And all of a sudden, those people, if they're any good at their jobs, can be making 100 plus within 5 or so years. You have your art history degree major, comes out, their degree really doesn't actually train them for anything in the world except for maybe academia. Oftentimes they will then go back, have to get more college credits so that they can become maybe a teacher, or I guess they are going to maybe be one of the finest art historians in the world, or they're going to be serving you your Starbucks as a barista. So that's really what ends up happening is the people are getting these degrees that don't translate into anything of real value in the real world, learning and education, but nothing of extreme value. And they struggle to find good paying jobs, and then they can't pay back their $125,000 education that they just went to for 4 years, and sometimes 5 years, $150,000 worth of education. And we're left with a big, big problem on our hands.
Now, on the college forgiveness side, some of the arguments they make on that side is that if you look back at 1970, you had to work about 14 hours a week at a minimum wage job to pay for a year of tuition. So per week throughout the year. But if you essentially held down a part-time job working 14 hours a week, you could pay for school, graduate without debt. If you were living at home or had a living arrangement. So relatively easy for people to pay for it themselves without loans. In 2010, you would have to work 35 hours a week at minimum wage to pay for the average year of public school. So education costs have gone up much faster than incomes. And then another issue is that people need jobs. In 1973, 72% of the jobs in the U.S. available for U.S. workers only required a high school diploma, or even high school dropouts could apply to 72% of the jobs. In 2007, that was only 41% of the jobs available. So jobs require a college degree. It's hard to pay for it. So it's a problem we got to fix. So I have other ideas and ways that we could solve it, but the current debt we're racking up isn't sustainable.
All right. So Chris, talk about your feelings on Joe Biden's proposal.
Well, I'm going to try to argue for the other side first. One is, if they all owe the government and we decide not to forgive the loans and they all default, isn't the taxpayer stuck with them anyways?
Yes.
So we're screwed either way, aren't we?
Yeah, it sounds like the bigger
and then you're wrecking people's credit and potentially having them default on other things.
Now, okay, then there's the other argument that's like, well, education should be part of a societal desire to have their, whatever, kids just educated, an educated society, right? This should be something that we want to all pay for because it makes society better. I've just met too many college kids that I don't believe that. I'm trying to think of other arguments. How do you rectify this with people who paid off their loans and aren't murdering it, but worked really hard, lived meagerly, paid off all their debt, and now had they just waited and not been such a sucker and so responsible, like, what do we do for them?
I think we have a day, like Veterans Day, and it's like people that paid their student loans off day, and
God,
we celebrate them.
I hate you so much. Here's a hot dog. Okay.
You say thank you for your service on Facebook.
Hypothetically, okay, if I'm being honest, if somebody said, okay, you paid off your wife and your tuition, you paid off, $140,000, we're going to write you a check for 140 grand. We're going to pay for school, and everybody's going to have a state-run college tuition paid for in the future. I might be willing to accept that. I mean, because the reality is I'm kind of like you, Sean. Well, if it's going to go through, I might as well make something on it if I can't fight it. But one of the reasons I'm going to fight tooth and nail is because I was one of the responsible ones who worked his ass off through school. I'm stepping over bodies at night that were partying hardcore. Why are you working, man? Just party. And I'm paying off my school as I go. That work experience not only helped pay for school, but helped me get the great jobs that helped me pay off school. And you're telling me those idiot douchebags who still bartend, who have all this debt, they're going to get it for free. It's not fair. Right. And then
how about the fact that this is just marching us closer and closer and closer to socialism? Every time that we are giving out more things run by the government, we are becoming more and more addicted to the teat. Like, we have to get like this idea that, and yes, I feel the same way as Chris. I paid off when we got married. I took on my wife's student loan debt, or both of us did. But then when she stopped working, I paid off all of the student loan debt for both of us. It was probably a total of $65,000 or something like that. Now, on top of it, I got scholarships in school for athletics because I worked hard and I had to go play my sports. Then when those ended, I worked. I worked so that I didn't take on student loans, so that I was more debt free than as debt free as I could be. I left with like 10 grand worth of student loan debt. She, ironically, didn't really understand how it all worked, was taking all this student loan money. It was private. So they would just give her a check. She'd pay off her tuition, pay off her apartment. And then we went out to dinner a few times because she had money in her bank account, not from her job, but from her student loan. I ended up paying that back with interest. Didn't realize it. But this idea that now we're just going to just forgive all of this, and this is going to make us a better place because now someone doesn't default. How about we hold these universities accountable? That's the part I don't understand, is why is it that the university can peddle their degree in something garbage like art history, not explain to the student, you're not going to make much money. I'm going to charge you $125,000 for this degree in art history, encourage you to get this degree in art history, let you feel like it's fine that you do so. And then when you graduate and you don't pay back the money, there's no skin off my back at Harvard or University of Illinois or wherever. It's the government who gets stuck with the bill. How does that make any sense? That's unbelievable. Could you imagine if banks were able to do that?
It's un-American, and it's not like this scam. It's not like this information hasn't been out there. I backdoored my way into University of Illinois through family development and human studies. And I thought maybe I'll go into like psychology, right? And I looked at the alumni booklet in the first week of class, and half the people were housewives or house husbands. And I thought, I'm not in college to be a housewife or a house husband. I need to make money. So I transferred into what was going to be business, but I ended up going into leisure studies because I wasn't smart enough to get into the business school. But I also recognized I'm a leisure studies major. That's what my degree is going to say. Is this a joke? Like, I better get some work experience because that's the only way I'm going to get a great job. Like, I was aware of these things in the early 2000s. The data was out there. In fact, in recruiting for internships, we were well aware that without a good resume, you weren't getting a job. A college degree is a dime a dozen. It's just taking people 20 years to figure it out. All we're doing is slapping a Band-Aid over this issue of personal responsibility. If you're going to spend money, you need to take some responsibility over your decision. I bought a really expensive car at the age of 22. It was a dumb decision. Nobody bailed me out. It took years to bail myself out of that. We should not be bailing people out of the dumb decisions they make.
And some of the decisions that are being made in these college campuses are not the fault of the students, they're the fault of the administration. If you look at just the state of California's public school system, the institutions there in the 80s spent about $20 billion on teaching, on instruction, on the classes. And they spent about $13 billion on academic support, institutional support, student services, all the other peripheral stuff. So about 2/3 of the money was being spent on your class, giving you the classes. That's flipped to about half. It's about 50-50 now. So administrative costs are up to 41% of the cost of a college education. And the amount of deans and assistant student dean and all these different departments and deans of this and deans of that is bloating the system. There's a really good article from a few years ago on Forbes talking about, it's called Bureaucrats and Buildings. And it explains the data about how the real problem is the buildings are fancier, bigger, and nicer, and the bureaucrats have fancier, nicer offices and big fat salaries. The education cost per student hasn't gone up that much. It's the rec center, it's the fancy business school, it's the fancy student union, and it's all the frickin' student services and a million administrators that are really driving the cost up.
Yeah. And so all right. So then what is the solution? So how do we fix the problem? I'll give you some ideas. For starters, instead of the three of us as taxpayers paying for other people's student loans because they got crappy degrees and didn't work hard throughout college. And by the way, I have some personal anger and angst because part of my past employment was to work with college students and give them the opportunity to make a lot of money in the summer to pay off school. And many universities weren't all for that if it didn't operate through their preferred channels.
How about the phrasing? Wait, are you a for-profit company? Well, we don't deal with those. I mean, literally, just if you're a for-profit company interested in generating income for a student, they don't want anything to do with that.
Well, in many cases, they don't. So again, the university system, and talk about corporate bloat, Sean, and I know this personally from dealing with it. What if you found out that the career center at a university that is not helping this problem, there were 29 different career centers at one public university, different career centers, each of which has full-time staff that work at it. Think of the millions of dollars that go to their career center, and the people aren't even getting the careers that they need to get to pay this off.
And typically those are standalone entities that have to fund their own budgets by getting corporate sponsorships or hosting fairs and events that companies pay to be involved in, and they have to raise their own funds. But that's one of the only departments in the university that's kind of its own standalone budget. Some of them probably get bailed out by the university, though.
So how about this? Harvard has a $42 billion endowment fund. They have $42 billion. Why is the government paying for the defaults on the loans that went through Harvard, essentially? Yale's has a $30 billion endowment fund. Cal Berkeley's is almost $5 billion. University of Illinois is almost $3 billion. And you can go on and on, and you can search this stuff up. So we have these endowment funds from these universities for billions and billions and billions of dollars. Why isn't the university on the hook for some of this? And I get it. They might say, well, I didn't make the loan, so why should I be on the hook? So I can understand where they would be upset. But why wouldn't the university be on the hook? Why would we as taxpayers give, and the initial thought was at least $10,000 for everyone who has student loan debt. Why would we be giving everyone $10,000? Why wouldn't the university endowments go?
Because if we don't, then the Democrats are to blame and they don't get the votes anymore. If they let the students fail, that's a big contingent of their party because they're the ones responsible. They're the ones that give out these loans to people who couldn't afford them, that let the universities raise their tuition rates because the government's going to pay it. And really, the government is responsible for this. And if they're held responsible, that kills that party. They have no choice but to push this through.
Correct me if I'm wrong. And Sean, I haven't filled out a FAFSA form in years. But when you apply for student aid, which is essentially these loans, isn't it the worst off your financial situation, the more money you get?
Yep. Yes.
When you go get a car, isn't it the exact opposite? You have to prove that you're in really, really good standing. Like if you can say I make $10 million a year, you can get like any car loan you want.
Well, I think you can get a federal student loan regardless. Now, in terms of grants and stuff you never have to pay back, because that's a whole nother level of expense that bloats university tuition is a program like a Pell Grant. We're not including that in student loan debt, right? Student loan debt is I took out a loan. So you do have to have some level of credit to get a private student loan. That's just like a personal loan. They're going to see all your stuff. They want to see your credit score. They want a cosigner. My dad had to cosign on my private student loans, and I had to make the payments for a few years on time before I was able to drop him as a cosigner. So that's no different. But if you notice, that is a very small portion of the total balance owed, because it's a lot easier to get that student loan. And it's because you can't default, right? You can default, but you can't avoid it in bankruptcy. This thing sticks with you forever. There's just no way to get out of it currently.
So I think we've got to start looking at the universities and start holding them accountable and start pushing the university system. Because if the university recognized that people defaulting on their student loans hurt them, how would that change how the university operates from our experience working with these career centers, working with these university personnel, working with students? How would things be different if defaults hurt the university, which they don't currently?
Well, I agree. I think it needs to hurt in the form of a lack of enrollment. I still think the government needs to be held responsible, and then that's got to translate into a lack of enrollment in colleges, and then thus a lack of funding. I think that's how it's going to hurt them.
So,
Yeah, I don't think you'd actually see a tremendous amount of change, Taylor. I think you would see schools fail. And I think you would see new schools disrupt, whether it's an online platform for school like a Coursera or Udemy. There'd be a new disruptor that takes over the market and is able to do it profitably and actually provide people with degrees or skills that they can translate into the workplace. You'd see, coding camps and coding schools and all sorts of other technical schools pop up that would fill the void. I don't think the universities would be profitable on their own.
no. So again, if we held the universities responsible, here are some things that you think that could potentially change. Number one, and I remember there was a university, I think it was in Kansas. Didn't they state that they had, or the whole state of Kansas stated when you entered the information as to how much the average each degree pays out had to be clearly stated to all the students that are enrolling? It was there was some government rule that, like, when you apply, you have to be told exactly how much you can expect to make when you leave school or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if it is required or statewide, but I know Emporia State University provides a really nice database that shows you what the average grads with that particular degree are making, and what the cost to obtain that degree typically is, and the return on investment, payback period, that kind of stuff. So that is something I know they have accessible for their students. When you're learning about the costs and you're figuring out whether or not you want to go to school there or what you want to study. So
I think
know
you would see many degrees start to get removed from the university offering. You're not going to be able to go to the University of Illinois and all of a sudden just pick any degree that you want, because they're going to say, you know what, the default rate on our humanities degrees are much higher than the default rate of our engineering degrees. So we cannot, our enrollment standards will be much higher, actually. Because right now, as Chris mentioned, you can get into the University of Illinois, into their College of Agriculture and Consumer Economics, with a much lower standardized testing than you can engineering. But yet the default rates are much higher in the ACEs than they would be in the engineering, because you make much more in the engineering field there. And I think what you're going to see is the universities are no longer going to peddle their come and study and pay us $40,000 a year to not really get a job. I think you're going to see, as you mentioned, the trade school concept move up. And I think some of the trade schools would be nowadays coding and things of that nature, not so much plumbers and all that, but you're going to see more of a tech trade school increase. I also think, what about encouraging students to work when they're in school? And I'm not talking work for the university bookstore, which they always love to do, but I'm talking work. Like, really get the kids to recognize you have to make sure that you make X amount of money. I mean, my parents did with my siblings. We had to make so much money during summer or we couldn't go to school. It was sort of like, why can't the university say you have to make sure that you can pay 50% or whatever it is of this, so that you, and now it does two things. One is you get some experience, and two is you're not taking out as much loans. But when the university isn't on the hook, they don't care. So they just drive up the cost of it, and then they start peddling a bunch of crap, and they encourage kids to go to school for 6 years.
I think that the argument against that is the graduation rate is already a problem. So, every single freshman in the country enrolls with the expectation that I'm going to be here for 4 years. Unless you're special, architecture or something really technical, double major, or you're going straight into law school and you're in part of some 5 or 6 year program, your expectation is I'm going to get my undergrad in 4 years. And right now, the best university in the entire country has a 92% 4-year graduation rate. And that is actually incredibly high. And some really, really good colleges like a Duke has 88%. If you look at the average state school, Oklahoma State University, Kansas State University, Florida State University, you're talking a 40% four-year graduation rate.
Wow.
You have
I didn't graduate before.
Unlikely chance. You're actually more common for you to take 5 or 6. What do you think it would be at 6 years at a typical state school? Because that gives you all that time to finish that extra semester that you had to retake. What do you guys think?
60%.
6-year graduation rates. The highest in the country is Harvard with a 98%. Many state schools have under 50%, and nationwide about 62% of students completed their bachelor's within 6 years. So 2 out of 5 kids aren't even completing the degree within 6 years for a 4-year degree. Really?
Doesn't that speak to a bigger issue, which is you are a lazy piece of crap and you should not get these loans paid for? There's a reason why you're not getting a job. You can't attend 4 years of classes spread across 6 years. Give me a break. We should not be handing you money when you are the problem.
Isn't this the biggest issue that we're faced in America, though, is the lack of responsibility, personal responsibility. It's removing personal responsibility is I think the biggest issue we're faced with. And I think we have to start putting the responsibility where it belongs and stop saying, hey, government, you take care of it. Hey, government, you take care of it. And that's essentially what I keep seeing the slope or the slippery slope going to. And, I've felt this way for a while. And we talked about it with COVID. We talked about it with healthcare. Everything on the liberal platform is government take care of the problem. Government fix the problem. And we've got to stop saying that. At this point, it should be the university fix the problem or the people who aren't graduating fix the problem.
Let the free market figure it out. It will.
Let the free market figure it out. And if a university has to fail, it has to fail. And then others will fix their problems. But we can't just keep bailing out every university, every student, every person, because, it sounds nice, but that utopia doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And what are we going to do the same thing when all of a sudden the mortgages get out of control? We're just going to take on all of your mortgage debt and we'll take your house from you.
I was kind of wondering why the right isn't pushing for free guns for all Americans. It is there's an amendment for that, at least. It is kind of a right that I have a right to bear arms. Can I get a free armament?
It's a funny comment, but obviously we're not for free stuff like that. But granted, it is really hard to run an election against Santa Claus, promising to give away everything.
Why do you think this wasn't talked about more on the campaign trail?
What campaign trail? Joe Biden didn't have a campaign trail. Just sat in his basement. He still sits in his basement. And he's gone giving a couple of speeches. He's still a gaffe machine. I think it's more insidious. I don't think the Democrats don't realize we can never pay back this debt they want to take on. I think they're so in favor of this great world reset, this one world government, one world currency. They want to spend us into oblivion. So we're so dependent on the government. We have no choice but to be dependent on the government.
I totally agree. I think
there really is a solution to this too, because I've had this debate with a couple of friends that really want free college across the board, and they're kind of in the Bernie Sanders camp. And I said, so what do you want for free? And they're like, well, I think education should be free. I'm like, okay, education. What else besides education? They're like, just the education. I'm like, okay, so just the books and the lectures and the course material for people to learn. Like, well, and your dorm. I'm like, but that's your housing. That's not your education. Well, and your meal plan. Well, that's food. That's not your education. Like, if you want every single kid in this country to have free college, we can do it right now. There's thousands of Zoom lectures going across the country right now of a bunch of mediocre professors and a couple really amazing professors. And we could just broadcast those really good professors to everybody, and everybody could have a better education. But the educational system doesn't want that, because that puts a lot of bad professors out of work. So really, the education piece isn't hard to get everybody free education. Shipping them off to a college town where they're going to live for free, eat for free, party for free, and have a rec center that's state of the art. It's better than anything you've ever seen on a vacation. And that's the experience they want to have. But if you want to give people free education, I'm all for that. We could set up a website right now, probably work a little bit better than healthcare.gov, and we can get a lot of free education out there. They don't really want that.
I think that's a pretty hot take that I think people need to really chew on a little bit. Is it really that we just want free education? So free classes and a free sheet of paper diploma that proves that you learned the stuff and now you can go get a job? I think you're right. I don't think that's what people want. They want a free college experience. They want 4 years of life paid for free. That's what they really want and envision. And you're right. The universities, if you were to say, all right, cool, we'll give you guys this website that everyone can go to, take their courses. It's all free. And as long as you pass these tests, you get this degree at the end from, USA.edu. And I think a lot of people would say, well, no. And I think the academics would get really pissed off.
Oh, yeah.
I think they would get really pissed off. I think you would find now all of a sudden you'd find these universities turning their backs on the liberal side of things.
There is, by the way, a way to pay for free college. Nobody's talked about it yet on the show, which is it's called the GI Bill. I know a lot of people that paid for college that way, and I think they're probably the most pissed off.
Oh yeah. Great point.
Yeah. And you could just have Mexico pay for it because they're supposed to pay for the walls.
They are.
I mean,
they have paid for the wall.
They did pay for the wall. So again, just it's another baffling part of the election situation that we're faced with. We're still in our mid-election show because we still don't have a named president. Is there any conspiracy theory for why Biden hasn't left the basement yet? Is it because right now they're too afraid that it's...
He's left it a couple times. He's given a couple speeches. They were terrible. So he's left a couple times.
How about the media? Have you seen the media and the questioning that they have given him in his 2 media, if you will, press conferences?
It's so slurpy. It's just gross.
It's unbelievable. The 7 questions they asked him, 5 of them dealt with, isn't Trump a bad guy? Are you mad at President Trump? I mean, there is such a lack of holding him accountable. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
Again, at some point, I've said it for a long time, the thing I'm most pissed about is the media. And actually, part of the media, if we're going to talk about colleges, is I get an email every day from the Chronicles of Higher Education. And oh my gosh, is that the most liberal crap you could imagine. I put it out on Parler last week, one of the articles, just talking about, everything that is wrong with the university system, but they make it sound right. And it's ridiculous, from critical race theory to the cost of education to handling education in a pandemic and how the government should support it and everything else. It really is remarkable. But then they want me to spend $127 annually so that I can read their articles. I thought that was cute. So again, universities and the university system is a disaster, and we're going to start hearing about this. I will prognosticate that this will start to become a very, very hot button topic coming up very soon. Is the university system. All right, let's transition a little bit into some sports news.
And Taylor, it might take us a while to get some closure on this topic because due to the pandemic, student loan deferments and forbearances are in full effect. Many people are choosing to not pay if they don't want to. So of the 53 million borrowers that owe student loan money right now, 27 million are currently making payments and 26 million are either in forbearance or deferment. So the normal time of late October when the government posts the results of current default rates was basically put on hold this year until next year. So it's going to take a full year and probably longer to see the effects of the pandemic and the default rates on these loans. So I think there's going to be a big ripple effect, and this is going to get much louder before we see some kind of conclusion.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to be hearing a lot about default payments coming up once the pandemic settles down, whether it's mortgage defaults, student loan defaults, etc., because there has been a lot of forbearance going on in everything, rent payments, evictions, everything else. So I think the world might get a little bit messy All right, sports news. Into sports news. Did you guys watch some of the NFL this weekend? It was upset central. There was a lot of upsets, at least what I can see. I picked many of the games incorrectly. Chris, how did your gambler's corner go this weekend?
I went 0 for 4. So then I decided to go heavy on Kansas City to cover 7.5, and I lost that too. So it did not go well. I might be done gambling for the year.
How do you guys feel about the breaking news of Joe Burrow's torn ACL and MCL?
Yeah, Joe. Well, and they say and structural damage. I feel awful because I thought he was kind of a fun story of this guy who couldn't get on the field at Ohio State, goes to LSU, has one of the greatest seasons.
The greatest
in college. Well, Tebow, but in college football history, gets the number 1 overall pick, shows he's worth it. He's back in his home state of Ohio. He's off to a pretty good start there for the Bengals. And now it's not just he's done for the year, but it's a significant knee injury that I won't be surprised if he doesn't play all of next year.
Well, they take about a year to come back from, so we're talking November of next year. Like, yeah, I think you're right.
And this is almost to the Teddy Bridgewater kind of level. I think he'll come back eventually, but this is one of those. This was a very, very severe knee injury.
Bengals fans, he's got to wait again.
Yeah. Yep. So the Bengals, they bungled. Yeah. So that is obviously pretty awful news. Pretty disappointing. COVID is starting to kind of pop up in a few different spots. I don't know if you saw the Ravens had to shut down their Ingram and J.K. Dobbins both are out for Thursday Night Football, which kind of stinks because my best guess, I won't be shocked if that game gets canceled. If there's some more cases running through the Ravens, they're going to cancel the game, which will be disappointing because, again, Thanksgiving, you only have 3 games. You're not going to get another one. And I told you that was one of my favorite parts about Thanksgiving. So be on the lookout for the Steelers-Ravens game on Thursday night getting canceled. So so what else happened this weekend in sports? Again, we're seeing more and more upsets happening in the NFL. The Chiefs did hold and were able to beat the Raiders last night. The
How about the Raiders, man? Carr just looks good. Gruden has really rebuilt that guy. Holy cow.
Yeah, they look good. I mean, they split the season series with the Chiefs. They're 6-4. I think they're gonna, I think they'll make the playoffs. The Bears didn't lose this weekend. Good news for us Bears. Well, that's because they were on a bye, but they ended.
What will happen first? A Steelers loss or a Jets win?
Steelers loss.
Yeah, the Jets are bad. I mean, they're just bad.
I'll take Jets win.
Yeah. I don't know. I have to. The Steelers. It depends a little bit on their.
The Jets got the Dolphins next week.
Well, they're gonna get smoked.
The Dolphins aren't that bad. Although Tua got benched.
They still said he's the starter, but we'll see.
But he did get benched.
Yeah.
So
Taylor, what's your pick on that one? The Steelers play the Ravens. The Jets play the Dolphins. Jets have a winnable game. Steelers have a losable game.
I don't think that's a winnable game for them at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think the Dolphins are a much better team than you're giving them credit for, and I would say I think the Steelers loss.
All right.
The Jets are bad. And again, my picks this week were really awful, so maybe you just go the opposite of what I say to do.
And is it weird that the NFC East still has every single team? It's the most competitive division in the league for, who's going to win the division, and the least competitive division in the league for football games.
So how about in to go to college sports, did you guys watch the Wisconsin Badgers, who looked like they were potentially going to be a nationally, competitive team, lay an egg against Northwestern? So Northwestern moved up significantly in the rankings. Northwestern looks like they actually have a pretty legit defense. Their offense sputtered quite a bit, but defense were able to hold Wisconsin to 7 points. Alabama's cruising along. Clemson's game got canceled against Florida State, and now there's actually controversy as to why. COVID is just ruining everything. It just ruins sports. I mean, COVID sucks.
COVID's fine. It's Democrats that are the problem.
So it's
You don't cancel games for the flu or for the sniffles. So it's Democrats.
College football, is Indiana that good, or is Ohio State not that good?
I think Indiana's that good. I think their quarterback's legit. I think their quarterback is legit. I think Ohio State's great.
5 touchdowns against Ohio State. That's pretty impressive, man. Yeah.
So, Chris, do you have Gambler's Corner?
I don't. I lost all my money, so I'm not gambling anymore.
Right.
That's it.
All right. So tonight's game, we have Monday Night Football tonight. And we have tonight's game is a good game. It's the Buccaneers versus the Rams. Straight up, who do you have, Bucs or Rams?
I think Rams are getting 4. But
4.5.
The Bucs are so hard to predict, and I think the Rams are better than people think.
I'm going to go Bucs.
I want to go Bucs, but since my picks have been bad, I'm going Rams.
So you're just going to go the opposite of what you're.
I'm fading my own picks. Yeah.
Oh, that kind of makes me want to go Bucs.
I'm Bucs.
I will. I'm going to go Bucs. I think Antonio Brown continues to help and is a difference maker. They have too many weapons. I do like the Rams. I think it'll be more competitive than people think, but we'll go with the Bucs.
Yeah, and that defense is no joke. The Rams have a solid defense.
All right, Bucs it is. All right, so let's get to our top 5. Unless someone has some serious or satire, we can move into our top 5. I had a couple of serious or satire, but
I already sent you my serious or satires earlier in the week that the speed of light is racist and rocks are racist. So I've already used those, unfortunately. Both serious.
That's the most remarkable part is it's actually harder to find good satire than it is the serious ones.
Yep.
Here's a serious one.
Serious or satire?
All right.
Facebook launches a new platform called Campus at 30 U.S. schools.
Serious.
It's serious. It is. Facebook literally just launched Facebook 20 years later again.
Yeah, wasn't that what Facebook was when we were in school?
Yes, it is exactly the original business plan, and they said, we're not really sure how to get more college students on the platform. What if we just have a platform that's only for college students, only at college campuses, kind of like Facebook? And then they redid it. If it works, this is amazing.
And people are stupid.
All right.
They're the iPhone of social platforms then.
Yeah.
Repackaging the same crap and charging for it.
All right. I got one. WHO, the World Health Organization, is even lying about its own COVID-19 outbreak at its headquarters.
Serious.
It is. It is serious. They had an outbreak of over 60 people who work for the WHO in Geneva, Switzerland, and they lied about it. I think that's pretty remarkable. Here's another one. Hospital CEO says he had COVID and doesn't need a mask.
Oh, that's got to be serious.
And I wanted to send him some money for that.
I know. My new hero, the CEO and president of South Dakota-based Sanford Health, one of the largest health systems in the U.S., said he will not be wearing a mask because he's already had COVID-19. And I quote, this is really good. I contracted the virus, felt the uncertainty that accompanied the word positive, experienced the lagging coughs and fatigue, but I'm back in my office. Here's my favorite part. Citing growing evidence that he is now immune to the virus, Krabenhoff said, quote, "For me to wear a mask defies the efficacy and purpose of a mask and sends an untruthful message that I am susceptible to infection or could transmit it. I have no interest in using masks as a symbolic gesture." I think he's talking directly to everyone in the Liberal Party.
He's a patriot.
I got one more on the college theme. High school senior accepted to 116 colleges and offered $3.7 million in scholarships. Serious or satire?
Serious.
It is serious.
Come up with satire.
She had a 3.5 GPA in high school and was a member of NHS, Beta Club, and the English Society and an Honor Society. She applied to hundreds of colleges, applied for hundreds of scholarships, and has received 116 acceptance letters and $3.7 million in scholarships offered.
Can I ask a question?
Probably not.
What is her race?
Her desired major is race is irrelevant. Her desired major is elementary education.
Why is race irrelevant?
I don't know why it's irrelevant. I don't know her race, so I don't really know.
Well, no, I'm asking because I'm wondering, like when we were in school, I had friends who made sure that they, if they had like one, I think you could do if you had 1/16 Native American, and it helped you get into more schools. So I didn't know if that was part of the article or not.
It did not mention a race.
All right. I got something for you that's sort of a serious or satire. It's more of a multiple choice guess. It's guessing the sexiest male body part for men from the woman's perspective. I'll give you a few options. You've got arms, eyes, stomach, and chest.
Penis.
Chest.
Not an option.
I'll go chest.
Eyes.
Chest is number one.
Woo, doggy.
All right.
I assumed
number two between arms, eyes, and stomach.
Eyes.
Now we'll go eyes.
Stomach. Wow, wow for Chris. Then it goes eyes, then arms. So apparently, colored contact lenses. You skip the bicep curls, just get some blue colored contact lenses, I guess.
All right. Serious or satire? Chinese province reportedly threatens to kill dogs if owners violate walking ban.
100% true.
It is 100% true that in one of the provinces, it is illegal to walk a dog.
To rock? Really? It is illegal to rock your dog. You also cannot pick up and rock your dog, guys. He was not.
They threaten to confiscate and kill repeated offenders' pets. It's just, again, harder to find good satire. Actually, the stuff that I stumped Phelps with a week ago was just stuff I had to make up. Even the satire on the internet, it wasn't even good enough.
And China is talking to the Biden camp about how they need to follow in China's lead, about how they've got good control over the virus. And so they need to do what China does and open up trade. And so, so good old China Joe is going to have us murdering each other's dogs here in the future because he is a sympathizer with China. That is for sure.
I am, I'm shocked, but
we need
so college is free.
Kyle Rittenhouse's.
So college is free. You get to go back and do it again. What do you do?
Top 5 things. We are going to do top 5 things. If you knew college were free when you were going to school, which might end up happening, how would that have changed what you would have done in school? All right, we'll start with you, Sean.
My number 5, I would not have tried at all in high school. Gosh, high school would have been so much easier.
I don't get that.
Why would I try in high school?
You still have to get in.
You still have to get into the college.
I had to get enough ACT. I could get in, no problem. But I wouldn't have had to try to do anything to get scholarships or apply for scholarships or have a certain GPA. I'd have just gotten enough my ACT score and been good to go.
Why does he always struggle with the top 5?
This goes in the top 5 worst top 5s you've ever done.
That would have been amazing. Like, imagine how many kids aren't trying in high school now.
You just said it's like I would have written
free college is only going to apply to people that qualify. There's no way they're going to limit it to that. It's going to be who wants it, come get it. It's free. And I would have said, give me the free stuff. I won't try.
All right.
Interesting.
Well, I would have worked a job that wouldn't be reported to the government and would be typically cash only between me and my friends. Maybe selling them things that you wouldn't want to tell the government you're doing so that they wouldn't know I made money so that I could have my college for free. I don't want to,
The number
pharmaceutical rep?
Yeah, pharmaceutical.
Vitamins and
nutraceuticals, things like that.
I was going to say, and I said this when we were coming up with this list, that I'd never leave. But it's more like I would never graduate. Like, I think I would continue to fail every semester because I didn't have to pay for anything. So there was no punishment. So I'd probably never leave / never graduate.
Okay. All right. Chris, you're number 4?
Number 4 is probably more drugs. A lot more drugs.
Well, Taylor, you got a customer.
Well,
I mean, pharmaceuticals.
There are already a ton of drugs done in college, and just for lack of finances, some stopped. But man, done more and better drugs, probably. Yeah.
I would have. All right. So my number 4, I would have absolutely completely maxed out the meal plan. I mean, I weighed over 300 pounds as an offensive lineman in college, and I think I would have weighed 400 pounds. I mean, I would have found a way to get like the double meal, like where I could go to every dorm and like just keep doing it. I mean, I would have eaten and eaten and eaten more and more and more. Sean.
My number 4 is I would have been able to charge a parking spot to my student account and not had to pay $7,500 in parking tickets. It might have been. I might be understating it. It might have been $10,000 in parking tickets.
I forgot about all the parking. Oh.
So yeah, I would have gotten the VIP spot, whatever the most expensive parking spot is. I would have bought that.
For sure. Absolutely. Like, or just, yeah, I paid over $1,000 a semester for parking tickets. All right, Sean, next.
Oh, my number 3, kind of like yours. I would have eaten at Aubon Payne every day on my student meal plan account, which I actually did do, but I still would have done that if it was free too.
Oh man, was that place tasty? I hear that.
Can you? All right, so here's my number 3. It would have been the same thing. I would have taken girls on dates to like the student places that you could buy, like the Panda Express and stuff like that. I mean, you could take a girl. I mean, imagine you take a girl on a date, but it was free now because the school is paying for it.
So top 3 thing I would do is I would skip the date and I would just do more girls.
Wait, what? How did the cost of education being allow you to do more ladies?
Because there'd be more girls in college.
I didn't think about that, which is part of the problem. I already fell out of school. I don't know how to do the math of like why that would even translate. So that's part of the problem.
This wasn't just what you wished happened when you were in college. This is things that if college were free, you would have.
Oh, yeah, I probably would have had to work as much. So I could have spent more time, working on the game.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, right, I could afford STD treatments.
Number
2. Is that your number 2? STD. Get an STD test every week. Do you have another one?
No, come back.
All right. So I am on my number 2. Is that right?
Yeah.
I would have absolutely found a way to get to like the penthouse apartment. Instead of like just finding the cheap apartment and saving money and stuff like that, I would have just gotten for sure the most expensive apartment I could find on campus. Because there were apartments that were like $1,000 a month, and I found a place that was like $250 a month, and I had to share it with like people I didn't know, like separate leases. I would have made sure I got the killer pad.
Oh, I need to change my list. I wouldn't have had that roommate with the cat that peed on everything.
There you go.
Oh, all right. My number 2 is I would have done like a mini study abroad for about 10 days every March. I'm big in like Latin culture, so places like Mexico and the Caribbean and South America and stuff.
Great.
Well, no. It's a study abroad.
Yeah.
Just I gotta experience the culture.
You got to find out what the difference is between the culture in Cancun versus Puerto Vallarta. Totally.
I want to just come out and say his answer is the same as my last answer. So much more cleverly disguised.
Yep. All right. And your number 1?
My number 1. Oh, nobody's come up with this yet. I would have double dipped. I would have had 2 colleges. I would have been in 2 different frats, and I'd have my Monday, Wednesday, Friday college and my Tuesday, Thursday college. Kind of like those people in the movies that have 2 families and the families don't know each other. I would have just lived 2 college lives for free. Double the meal plan, double the parking spots, double the friends, and it would have been amazing. It's all free.
I didn't go to any of my classes. The one college I went to, I don't think I needed 2 of them to not attend. Mine, I would have definitely stayed for a 7th year. I mean, 6 years was good, but I might as well go for 1 more. If it's free, I'll stick around for a 7th.
The old Van Wilder victory lap.
No, for sure.
If I could go back, I'd probably live for free. Yeah, I'd work full time, max out my Roth IRA, start maxing out a traditional IRA, and actually start doing investing the right way from a young age. I mean, you've all your expenses paid for. Might as well start investing and saving and retire by the age of 35.
This sounds like a guy who's going to buy a minivan because it makes sense.
I did just say I was going to do girls for no reason whatsoever on the last one. Don't you come at me with that.
All right. So that is it. So this is the college episode, and hopefully you guys agree and look at it and go, this is nuts. I can't believe that Biden is proposing that we give everyone back their student loan debt and cover $10,000 worth of student loans. We need to stop this. We need to say something. So this is ridiculous. You paid your student loans. You worked hard in school. So did we. And we can't let this crap happen. Socialism sucks. People work your jobs, get a real degree, go to college, get out in 4 or 5 years and pay for it. All right. So that's Not So Silent for November 23rd. Have an amazing Thanksgiving holiday. Share this with all of your friends on YouTube. Subscribe to us. Go to Parler, at Not So Silent Pod. Join us there and echo this if this is something that you've enjoyed. And go to notsosilent.com and sign up, and we will send you all of the newsletters that we put out. All right, goodbye. When did you turn in your man card?
Like 6 years ago?
I think it was on New Year's Eve, like how many? Yeah, 6, 7 years ago.
I don't know. Probably.
You were there.
Yeah, I mean, basically when I got married, for the most part.
Yeah, clearly you gave up.
My wife not only has my balls in her purse, she has them in separate purses, just so I can't find them all. It's like trying to bring Voldemort's soul back together. You got to find like 5 Horcruxes. Like the journey to like find my testicles and bring my man card back would spawn well more than 8 Harry Potter movies, that's for sure. But if brought back, there'd be a reckoning.
Lord of the Rings.